You're listening to Packers Talk Network.
Packers Talk.
You're listening to No Huddle Radio on the Packers Talk Radio Network, your home for in-depth and thoughtful Packers analysis. I'm your host, Gil Martin. My co-host is my good friend, Sean Tehan. In addition to this show, I write for the PackersPost.com and Cheesehead TV. And Sean was a TV sportscaster in Minnesota. We're here to talk Packers because you're all here for one thing, and that's a love for Green Bay football. Sean, how's it going?
It's going. Just another day that we're getting a little closer to Packer football season, to a new season. We're getting a little closer to the draft. But we're still kind of recapping the year last year, which had started out so well, and then injuries galore occurred, and then it was just a pretty big downfall. So I'm ready to get that in the past as soon as possible. But before we get into today's episode, we just want to talk about our sponsor, Wisconsin's own Ticket King. For more than 30 years, Ticket King has been providing Packers tickets to Packer fans, as well as Bucks, Brews, and Summerfest tickets. Find them on the web at theticketking.com or visit their locations in Green Bay and Milwaukee. And you can watch every episode of No Huddle Radio on Packers Talk Network on YouTube. You just go to YouTube, type Packers Talk Network in the search bar, click on the PackersTalk.com link with the green background and the yellow goalpost. Click on the bell, subscribe, turn notifications on. Hey, if I can do it, you can too. I'm not the most tech savvy person, but if I can do it, you can do it too. So get on YouTube, follow us live, join the chat and everything. And a lot to chat about though from this past year, Gil. Still, I'd like to get in the rearview mirror, but we still got a lot of recapping to do ahead.
We do. We certainly do. And a couple of position groups we haven't touched on just yet. And hard to believe the draft is so close. I mean, wow.
Yeah, it's coming up at the end of the month. People are going to be eating some pierogies and Permanente sandwiches probably in Pittsburgh. If I were there, I'd probably be scarfing a few of those down, but I'll do them maybe from afar. So, but let's get into grading some Packers, though. On the back end of the defense, let's start with the linebacker group, Gil. Overall, an athletic group, but a group that you feel like there's a lot more ceiling there at times, especially with one guy, Edgerrin Cooper. But let's start with Tyron Hopper, Packers third-round pick, one of their third-round picks a couple of years ago. Played in 17 games this past year, 24 total tackles, had a pass deflection, forced a fumble. And Gil, he's shown glimpses and flashes of being really good. I mean, he had that key pass deflection in the win at Pittsburgh during the regular season. He had the red zone interception in Chicago in the playoffs. You think he's going to have a bigger role next year in Jonathan Gannon's new scheme, and with the departure of Quay Walker, we just haven't we've seen flashes here and there. We just haven't seen it all put together because he hasn't really given the opportunity. But what's your grade for Tyron Hopper from last year?
I can't go above a C+. I mean, we've seen flashes. We haven't seen consistency. It seems like he has issues sort of anticipating of being in the right place at the right time. He's got the speed. The kid can hit. I love watching him make tackles. And Lord knows the Packers could use a couple of guys in the lineup who can wrap up and hit hard. And yet the fact that he's still not playing tells you he's got a few other things that he still needs to work on. What was your take?
Well, I was going to ask you this, where they added Zaire Franklin, obviously, to this group. Does that mean they don't believe in Tyron Hopper, or is it just a matter of they want as many linebackers on the field as possible? Because this is Jonathan Gannon's scheme where he likes to have a lot of linebackers on the field, Gil. Is this more so just getting more assets in the cupboard at the linebacker spot, or is this an indication that maybe Tyron Hopper's not the future?
I think it could be a little bit of both, and we'll see. A lot of it, look, I think at the end of the day, Tyron Hopper's going to be in training camp this year.
Yeah.
And if he takes that step forward and starts to live up to his status as a third-round pick, by all means, I think that there will be a place for him not only on the roster, but maybe even on the field more often on defense. But clearly, with the preference for linebackers that Gannon has, they're not waiting and taking a chance. So it's like, you're here, show me what you got. If you don't got it, we have plan B right here.
And Zaire Franklin's contract isn't a significant albatross or anything like that.
No.
I mean, the Packers, they tend to do this where they like to double dip. They want to make sure that they're good, where who knows, maybe Zaire Franklin doesn't end up being the key player that we think he will be or he's anticipated to be. And Tyron Hopper takes another step up, and he takes a step up, and he fulfills that role. You don't know what's going to happen, but this is Brian Gutekunst's way of just building depth throughout the team when he can. And yeah, Zaire Franklin's contract is not super heavy or anything like that, but the Packers are in a win now window, so I do understand that trade. My grade, though, for Tyron Hopper this past year was a B-, and I do agree where the anticipation isn't really great on his part so far in his first couple of years in the league. But that interception in Chicago, maybe something there, that was an anticipation play. It really was. Chicago actually had a pretty solid play design on that. And Tyron Hopper actually read it pretty well, and it was a fourth down play too. And it's essentially it was a turnover in the red zone, which should have been huge for the Packers. It should have been a difference maker. It wasn't in that playoff game. Obviously, I'm done talking about that. But Tyron Hopper, I think the jury's still out on him. He's a big linebacker, though. So, yeah, if he's a big linebacker who could run, if he could just figure it out, Gil, I feel like this defense could be really, really, really good and take another step up.
Hope so.
Next up, we have Isaiah McDuffie. 17 games this past year, 92 total tackles, had a sack, 3 tackles for loss, a pass deflection, and an interception. Gil, McDuffie is just a solid, steady veteran linebacker. He was a 5th-round pick back in 2020, and he won't jump off the tape, but he's so sound in his fundamentals. He plays hard. When he makes mistakes, it's not necessarily mental. It's just he gets beat physically, and he's still in the Packer. He's still a Packer. He's still in the NFL for good reason. You know what you're going to get. Gil, I feel like you and I are going to have a similar grade for Isaiah McDuffie, a guy who you feel like he's consistent, but he's just kind of, there's not much ceiling there.
I give him a B. I really, like you said, he's reliable, he's dependable, he's smart, he's a leader. Every team needs an Isaiah McDuffie on their roster, or 5 guys like him at least. Yeah. But he is an average athlete by NFL standards. He is not making your Pro Bowl team anytime soon. No. He is not making mental errors, but, when he's on the field, if they drop back into coverage, you've got to kind of cover for him. You got to kind of protect him a little bit, because his lack of elite speed comes back to haunt him in those situations. So I gave him a B. He's reliable. He's dependable. He's smart. I like what he brings to the table, but he's one of those guys who maybe you're always looking to replace, but you never really do,
Yeah, exactly. And you said it best. You want a guy like this maybe on each side of the ball, and maybe on special teams too, a guy you can absolutely depend on. And if you're in a pinch, you need someone to fill in at a certain spot. That's Isaiah McDuffie for the linebacker group for the Packers. And he gets a B on my end as well. Again, just physically, because he's a smaller guy. But the thing is, I remember a few years ago, his old college teammate, A.J. Dillon, said, yeah, it seems like he's faster, maybe because he's bald now, so he gets a little more aerodynamic. There's science behind that. George Costanza could probably tell you that, yeah, that's probably true. Bald guys do run faster because they don't have as much wind resistance. But with Isaiah McDuffie, though, he's going to be in the NFL, barring health or anything like that. He's going to be in the NFL for 10 years. And it's just because you know what you're going to get, and he's just very solid fundamentally. And yeah, I think B is safe. It's like you're not going to build your defense around him, but you're not going to lose too much when he's on the field. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Everyone can use a guy like him. He's like mashed potatoes. You always want it on your plate, but it's not the reason you're sitting down for the meal.
Oh, man. I don't know. Mashed potatoes, I feel like I
love mashed potatoes.
Yeah, mashed potatoes, cheesy potatoes, I'm sitting down
for that. Now you're going to a different level.
Oh, yeah. Everything's better with cheese, especially when you're a Packer fan.
Especially if you're from Wisconsin, right?
Oh, yeah. It's like, this is cheese country, baby. Yeah. Real cheese does not come from California. It comes from Wisconsin. So we move on, though. Let's talk about Quay Walker. No longer a Packer, now with the Las Vegas Raiders. He signed with the Raiders in the opening of free agency in March. 17 games last year, 128 total tackles, 2.5 sacks, 8 tackles for loss, 5 pass deflections. Gil, I think Quay Walker's a good player, but the money he got with the Raiders, the Raiders have a lot of cap space because they are in full teardown rebuild mode, and they can afford to pay him a lot more than maybe he should have gotten on the market in general. I don't think he was worth keeping around long term, and especially after the year where he was pretty critical of the coaching staff at the end of the season. I think it's just best to move on from a guy like that. I think it was just a good break, a good clean break for both sides. What's your grade for Quay Walker, a guy who I think is a good player, but again, just didn't make sense the money that he got for the Packers to keep him around at that price tag?
I can't go higher than B- for Quay Walker. He just always seems to be not living up to the first round draft status that he had. And just to recap, because we didn't talk about this when we started, my grades, a C+ is average, and it's a combination of expectations and performance.
Yeah.
The expectations part is where Quay Walker falls apart. And I'll take it a step further because it's frustrating. We talked about Isaiah McDuffie and his weakness in coverage, or his, that's not a strength. There's an explanation for that. He's not very fast by NFL standards. Quay Walker may be worse than Isaiah McDuffie in coverage, and he is fast. So it's like, it's almost like the light never fully came on for Quay Walker as far as seeing the field, anticipating, knowing what he has to do and doing it. He makes a lot of tackles. He has a certain skill set that he does very well, but he's limited by the things he does poorly, and coverage is a big problem for him.
It always has been. And it's weird because it's like, he has a pick 6 on his resume in his career, and he's at times where he's in the mid, he's in the right spot. He just doesn't seem to find guys well. And hey, that's very hard. That's the hardest thing I feel like for a linebacker in the NFL, when they have to drop back in coverage and then they have to find someone, and that's how receivers, that's how the quarterbacks, hey, NFL quarterbacks are NFL quarterbacks for a reason. They hit those windows. If you're not in the right spot, they're going to expose you all day long. And that's what happens with Quay Walker far too often. With Quay Walker, I was just more so, I would say a B- as well, Gil, because he's not a bust, but he never lived up to the first round billing. I agree with that. I think the Packers were right to move on for sure. And maybe he excels with the Raiders, where he's now going to be paired up with an old teammate, Nakobe Dean, out there in Vegas. So maybe the Georgia boys back together, maybe that's going to help quite a bit for Quay Walker's sake. But yeah, a B- I think is definitely a fair grade.
And I'll add this. I give Quay Walker a lot of credit because his rookie year, he got ejected from 2 games for losing his cool and things that never should have happened. He has matured. He has brought that to the table, and he actually became a leader out there by the time he left Green Bay. So I got to give him a shout out and credit for that. He's a decent player. If he was a 3rd round pick, my grade would have been higher.
Yeah, the maturity that's been the best part about Quay Walker's career as he's gone on in the NFL, where he has definitely been able to keep his cool a lot better. He's been much, much better about that, and realizing it not only hurts him, it hurts the entire team. But I hope he does well with the Raiders. I don't really have any ill will towards him, but if he gives us a reason to have ill will, we'll have ill will. But right now, it's like I wish him well with the Raiders. He's in another conference, so that's okay. Lastly, let's go with Edgerrin Cooper. 17 games last year, 118 total tackles, half a sack, 4 tackles for loss, 4 pass deflections, 2 forced fumbles, and a fumble recovery. Gil, I love Coop. I think you love Coop as much as I do, but we both felt like he wasn't used as much as we anticipated, and that was probably because of the Micah Parsons addition right before the season. I think this guy is going to really excel at Jonathan Gannon's scheme because he's at his best when he's aggressive and flying downhill, which Gannon loves to do with his linebackers, with his off-ball linebackers. I think overall he's a better player than Quay Walker, and he will be better than Quay. But this past season, he and Quay were pretty even for the most part. So what's your Gil, what's your grade for Edgerrin Cooper from 2025?
I can't go higher than a B because we just didn't see the big play production that we saw from him. As a rookie, he was on the field a lot less and had a lot more impact plays. last year, and again, you alluded to it, I don't think they used him as aggressively, but why? I mean, why? You have this weapon, use it. I think he's going to have a great year this year. I think it's going to be like potential Pro Bowl breakout level, assuming he adapts well to Gannon's system, where he should be a really good fit. But the disappointing lack of big plays limited me to a B. What was your take?
I gave him a B as well. And I honestly, before the Micah Parsons trade happened, going into the season, I was thinking like, this is kind of an underrated candidate for Defensive Player of the Year. Just because there's so much, he's such a Swiss Army knife as a linebacker. But yeah, I felt like he was just more used as like a safety net behind the D line this past year. Maybe he had to be more in that role because the D line wasn't as deep and it wasn't as talented as years before. The D tackles I'm talking about. The edge rusher group obviously was very good. Micah did so much in his first year, and he's done his entire NFL career. But yeah, I think now you add Zaire Franklin, who's more of a thumper. Him and Quay Walker are both off-ball linebackers. I think they need more of that thumper mentality at linebacker. Zaire Franklin, it may not just be Jonathan Gannon's scheme. Zaire Franklin may lead to Edgerrin Cooper. His presence may lead to Edgerrin Cooper absolutely excelling this upcoming year.
I hope so. I think what Franklin will be is a little bit more reliable than Walker, a little more consistent. And when you have the other linebacker lining up alongside him, wanting to take chances, that consistency can make a big difference.
Yeah. So we're high hopes for Edgerrin Cooper, obviously, this year. I expect big things. I'm really excited to see how he's utilized this year because I still think there's a ton of potential for him to hit. And we're just kind of scratching the surface, I feel like, with Edgerrin Cooper coming up. Incomplete grades in the linebacker group, just to round it up real quick. Christian Welch, primarily a special teamer. Jamin Johnson, who spent most of his time on the practice squad, but also was primarily on special teams when he was on the 53-man roster. And then Nick Neiman, who was acquired before the 2025 season, primarily was a special teamer. We didn't feel like they were worthy of obviously gaining any grades. Let's go to the cornerback group, Gil. This is going to be a quick group to go through because there's not a lot of grades to really give in this position group. Let's start with Nate Hobbs. 11 games, 27 total tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 2 pass deflections. Signed a 4-year contract in March of 2025 and was released by the Packers 1 year later. Just an absolutely spectacular failure in Green Bay. He dealt with injury issues all season from training camp through the season. Not a good fit. The Packers thought he could be a boundary corner. Certainly was not. He's best in the slot, but the Packers had multiple guys who are much better than him at that spot, and that's Javon Bullard and Keyshawn Nixon. Gil, I was not very bullish on Nate Hobbs on the grading. What's your grade for Nate Hobbs?
I got to go with like a D+. Just very disappointing. And I mean, he was the injuries are part of it. I don't want to say it's all on him, but he ended up being a man without a position where he wasn't their best slot guy, and he just could not effectively play on the boundary. So it was a swing and a miss, I think, for Goody signing him to that free agent deal.
And I mean, it goes to show where the Packers paid him a lot of money not to play for him. That's all you need to know. That's all you need to know. D- was my grade for Nate Hobbs. Just because he had, what was the one game where he was primarily in the slot and he actually played pretty well. And he made some tackles in the backfield, and it was clear. It's like, this guy needs to be near the line of scrimmage. He cannot be deep in coverage. He's just way too much of a liability. There are just too many times this year where opposing quarterbacks were attacking him when he was on the outside because he just clearly could not hang on the outside. And that was a massive problem. Good on the Packers moving on just because that clearly was just not the right fit. Now he's with the San Francisco 49ers, and watch him go have an all-pro season because that's what seems to happen, in these kind of situations. Let's move on to Carrington Valentine, Gil. 17 games last year, 31 total tackles, and 4 pass deflections. As a former 7th-round pick, Gil, I'd say he's played beyond expectations overall. Has many issues tackling. He is just not – you want to run the ball at him because he is not a good tackler. He's a solid cover corner, not a special player, but he's not really an absolute liability as well. He's kind of like the Isaiah McDuffie of this group, really, where a guy you can count on in a pinch, but maybe you don't want to build your cornerback group around this guy. What's your grade for Carrington Valentine?
I always like Carrington Valentine. I like the physical aspect of his game as far as press coverage goes. Sometimes he doesn't know when to stop, but he's getting better at that. But the tackling is so frustrating.
Yeah.
As a 7th round pick, I've been rooting for him from day one. I mean, if I recall, his preseason debut was in Cincinnati, and he played in Kentucky right across the river there. That was and he intercepted a pass, no less. So that was a great moment for him. I'm going B-.
I think B- is fair. That's exactly what I got, Gil. And yeah, you mentioned when he was in Cincinnati too. He was locking down Jamar Chase in one-on-one drills, and I know it's training camp and I know it's practice, but usually the receiver has the massive advantage in one-on-ones, and he was shutting him down. And that was just a sign. It was like, oh, maybe there's something there with Carrington Valentine. But I think he's best suited as like a third bound, like a nickel corner or a dime corner. Just you don't want him being your star. You want him in on clear-cut passing situations. That's where I think it's at best. I do love his aggressiveness and press coverage, though, Gil. I'm with you there. But yeah, he's a guy who should not be on the field a lot. And remember, he was not on the field as often as people wanted him to be. And Jeff Hafley was asked about that quite a bit, but it's because you can't rely on him in run defense. And that was the big thing with the Packers. They wanted to shut down the run.
Definitely a problem. And look, hopefully he improves in that area. And unfortunately, he wasn't alone with having that problem too.
No, for sure. Yeah, this cornerback group in general could use a bit of a makeover going forward. We'll see what happens in the draft at the end of the month. Let's move on to Keyshawn Nixon, who was the number one corner just by default, you'd say, Gil, this past season.
Yes, I would say.
72 total tackles, 17 pass deflections, 3 TFLs, an interception, a fumble recovery. He would probably be best as a number 2 corner, Gil. I think he played a lot better than what people anticipated him to be. Because I think for the most part, he held his own at outside corner. He was amongst the league leaders in pass deflections. He could tackle when he wants to tackle.
Yeah.
It's which is the playoff game in Chicago had a lot. There was a lot there where it's like, oh, he's just kind of made some business decisions. But he was asked to do a lot for the Packers this past year. And overall, he held his own. I did not expect him to play, I think, as well as he did. I think he played better than expectations because I felt like him being a number 1 corner was a bit of a Hail Mary for the Packers into their approach this season, but it actually was better than expected. So what's your grade for Keyshawn Nixon?
See, a couple of things with Keyshawn. You're right about that expectation that he did better as cornerback 1 than we thought. But that executive decision there to not make a tackle in a playoff game near the end zone, boy, and his emphatic decision that I'm not returning kicks anymore.
Yeah.
Those things kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit as far as attitude, as far as approach. And the thing about Nixon that prevents him from, in my mind, really being a cornerback 1 is consistency.
Yeah.
He'll have games like the game against the Commanders where he had 5 passes that he broke up in that game alone.
Oh, I was there. He was great.
He was amazing. He was absolutely spectacular. And then he'll have games where you're like, what is he thinking out there? What is he doing? His temper sometimes gets in the way. That's another issue. He takes a few too many flags. So as a cornerback 1, he exceeded expectations, but he frustrates me in other ways. I can't go higher than a B-. I get the feeling you're going B, but that's my that's my take.
You read my mind. I am going B. Because again, it's like he wasn't the worst number 1 corner in football, but I think as a number 2 corner, if the Packers they signed Benjamin St-Juste to this group, I hope he's not our number 1 corner. I think it's an upgraded boundary corner from Nate Hobbs. I really do. But Keyshawn Nixon, I feel like he would excel as a number 2 outside corner because he can handle himself. He's best in the slot, but Javon Bullard's holding that. We'll grade Javon Bullard in the safety group in just a bit. But Keyshawn Nixon, I think, for the most part, for being the number 1 guy where he just kind of had to be, he did a lot better than I thought he would. I thought it would be an absolute disaster this year, but he he held his own for the most part. So he got a B, in my opinion. But yeah, I'm with you though, Gil, where it's like making the business decisions in a playoff game. I understand if it's week 18 and you're about to go in the playoffs or your season's over regardless. I understand that. But in the playoffs, come on, man. Like, lay it all out there. That's what the playoffs are for.
There's a time and a place to make those business decisions. That wasn't it.
Yeah, for sure. And now let's move on to the safety group. Well, actually, real quick, the cornerback group, incomplete grades, includes Bo Melton, who was listed as a corner but didn't play one snap at corner this year. Trayvon Diggs, who appeared in one game for the Packers. Shamar Barth, or actually 2 games if you include the playoffs, but he only had one snap in that playoff game. Shamar Bartholomew and Kamal Haddon just didn't register enough playing time for those guys to generate grades. Safety group. This will be a quick one too, Gil. Let's start with Javon Bullard, the second-year man out of Georgia, or who just wrapped up his second year out of Georgia, former second-round pick. 17 games last year, 83 total tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 3 pass deflections, and a fumble recovery. Gil, he is excellent in the slot. He's a great tackler. Packers, credit to Jeff Hafley, credit to the Packers for putting him in the spot where he is at his best. He is very dependable at that position. Stats maybe didn't show it, but he made life a lot easier, I feel like, for the outside corners and for the defense in general. Javon Bullard's a kid I really like. I'm really happy they found a spot for him. What's your grade for Javon Bullard?
I give him a solid B+. I really like what he brings. He's improving. There's still more, I think, that he can develop into and become. But I think he's a perfect fit for that slot. The only thing that prevented me from going into the A range, I would like to see a couple of more big plays. But that's it. I mean, he is already a very solid slot guy, and he has the potential to take it to another level.
He gets a B+ for me too. And it's exactly because of that, where it's like, again, the stats don't jump out and the big plays weren't there, but man, he's just opposing offenses game plan around him. I mean, I feel like they do. Like this safety group in general, this could be the common theme in these grades coming up, at least on my end, Gil. This safety group in general is really good. Javon Bullard, you have a guy who they put him at deep safety his rookie year. He clearly wasn't really a fit there. But yeah, I mean, Daryl's chiming in on the chat saying Javon Bullard really stepped up in his game. He did, Daryl. He absolutely did. And he's a guy that people are super behind. He actually changed his number 7 going into this upcoming season for those who may not know. But yeah, I'm really excited about Javon Bullard, especially because they found where he's going to just be at his best. And who knows, could you see him maybe lining up as like a linebacker in Jonathan Gannon's scheme at times? In passing situations, who knows, Gil? Maybe those big plays will come naturally next year.
We shall see. Going to be interesting.
Let's go to Evan Williams, another second-year Packer, former 4th-round pick out of Oregon. 16 games last year, 100 total tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 5 pass deflections, 3 interceptions, and a fumble recovery. Gil, this is like Isaiah McDuffie on steroids in a way. And I hope Evan Williams is not on steroids, because this is a kid who's incredibly fundamentally sound. He's incredibly smart, but he's so good, and he's so instinctive. He is awesome on the back end of the defense with his team. I mean, the Packers didn't give up a lot of explosive passing plays, and Evan Williams is a big reason for that. And I feel like much like Bullard made life easier for the outside corners, so too did Evan Williams. And I feel like there's a ton of Micah Hyde in Evan Williams' game, where he's very versatile. He just knows how to play football. I think he should have seriously been considered for all-pro votes last season. But Gil, obviously, I love Evan Williams. I love Javon Bullard. I love Evan Williams. What's your grade for Evan Williams in this past year?
Got to go A- for Evan Williams. He is smart, as you said. He's great near the line of scrimmage. He's also solid in coverage. I love the way he thinks the game, just a very heady player. And again, I think you're right about the Pro Bowl potential. And I still think that he can be even better than he was this past year.
Yeah, he's awesome. I'm really excited for Evan Williams. And he's such a good fit next to Xavier McKinney on the back end of the defense. And we're going to get to X in just a bit. But, man, I mean, it's kind of a good problem to have. But you always think ahead. And general managers are always thinking ahead. But Brian Gutekunst has to be thinking, crap, how am I going to pay Javon Bullard and Evan Williams? Because those two guys are going to get paid probably in a couple of years, and deservedly so. And then Edgerrin Cooper, obviously, part of that same draft class as well. That's going to be some tough decisions coming up. But Yeah, Evan Williams is a kid where it's like, I felt like I don't know. Do you feel like he should have received some All-Pro votes? Because I think he should have.
He should have. I don't know if he should have been on the Pro Bowl team, but he was close.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? But let's talk about those Xavier McKinney. 16 games last year, 107 total tackles, a sack, 4 tackles for loss, 4 pass deflections, 2 forced fumbles, and a couple of interceptions. Second team All-Pro this past year after he registered 8 interceptions and was a first-team All-Pro in 2024. Now, we talked about how Bullard makes life easier for the outside corners. Evan Williams makes life easier for the outside corners as well. I feel like Xavier McKinney makes life easier for the entire defense in front of him. I mean, those interception numbers dipped in 2025 from 2024 from 8 to 2, but it's just because not many QBs were daring to throw the ball within range of him. He was still recognized as an All-Pro, Gil, where everyone knows how great he is. So don't take a chance. Don't throw near X, or else X is going to give it to you. And hopefully for people who are into pop and R&B, they got that. But McKinney, just a home run addition for the Packers since he joined in 2024. And he and Evan Williams are they may be the best safety duo in football right now.
Yep.
I love Xavier McKinney. I love the safety group. Keep these guys intact as long as possible. What's your grade for Xavier McKinney this past year?
X-Man gets an A- from me as well. It would have been an A, except the 2 interceptions after 8 is a little disappointing. You're right. They didn't challenge him a lot. I don't blame them. And he is the kind of player, look, the Packers did not give up a lot of splash plays on defense, and he is the biggest reason why. So a very strong A-, but not quite an A from me.
Yeah, he gets an A- too, mainly because, I don't feel like it's his fault,
No.
Even Jeff Hafley was saying last year, it's like, I feel like X is playing his best football, but no one dares to throw near that guy. And it's awesome where you have when you had a healthy Micah Parsons rushing the passer, and then you got Xavier McKinney on the back end. This defense is so close to just being the number 1 overall. They're still a very good defense, but you get another legit 2 like number 1 corners or something like that. This defense has legit potential. Add some more depth to the D tackle position. Xavier McKinney is the one that really just he's the ultimate safety net. And I don't know, would you say, because this is lofty, Gil, but would you say he's better or at the same level as Nick Collins, or maybe not quite at Nick Collins level? Because Nick Collins is special.
They're different types of safeties, I think. Their skill sets are different. Let's just say, if I'm comparing eras, they're comparable in their value to the team.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, Xavier McKinney. I mean, I remember his first year in Green Bay, Gil, where it's just like, man, I haven't seen a guy who could play the deep third of the field like this since Nick Collins. And he costs a lot of money, but hey, they're paying him for good reason, and he's been delivering more. He's outplayed his contract, in my opinion, already. Incomplete grades for the safety group, Gil, include Jonathan Baldwin, Jalen Simpson, Ketan Oladapo, and Zane Anderson. Gil, before we wrap up with some trivia, what articles do you have coming up online for the Packers Post and Cheesehead TV?
Well, over at the Packers Post, I took a look at the last 2 times the Packers did not have a first-round pick in the draft and how they fared. And the results are kind of mixed, as you might expect. Also, over at Cheesehead TV, Matthew Golden, got to take a step up next year. I broke down that situation.
Trading a first-round pick for Brett Favre in the early 90s when he was a former second-round pick who threw 5 passes and 2 interceptions. That was gutsy by Ron Wolf back then, man. That was gutsy, but that's one of them where it actually turned out okay for the Packers. So,
yes, it is. Although that's not one of the 2 I covered because it's way longer ago.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. So, Gil, how about some trivia?
Let's do it.
Well, your alma mater, Michigan, they won the men's basketball national championship game this past week. UCLA won on the women's side. And earlier this week, the Packers, though, they have a lot of players with national titles on their resumes. Gil, amongst current Packers, which player or players have won the most national titles at the college level? And this is a bit of a trick question. It's not as simple as you may think.
Okay. So what you're going to tell me is that some of these players won a national title, but not in football. It's probably
no. It's all football.
Okay. So I mean, I would have to think Devontae Wyatt would be on that list for winning at least one national championship in college. Quay Walker is no longer a Packer, so I'm not going to include him. Gosh, we have half of the Georgia Bulldogs on our team. Sometimes.
Just think about which player or players have won the most national titles at the college level.
Yeah. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy.
And anyone following in the chat, if you know it, this is a bit of a tricky one. I will say it's a bit of a tricky one, but take a stab at it.
Go ahead. Who else?
Okay, so it's one player who won 3 national championships in college. Not at the FBS level, but at the FCS level. And that's Christian Watson.
Christian Watson, yeah.
Christian Watson won 3 national championships at NDSU in 2018, 2019, and 2021. Just NDSU obviously is an FCS powerhouse. He's one of 10 Packers who have won natties back in college. Other players on the Packers roster to win multiple national titles, Gil, includes a bunch of former Georgia Bulldogs. That's Javon Bullard, Devontae Wyatt, Nazir Stackhouse, Warren Brinson, and Jamin Johnson, who was there before he transferred to Kentucky. John Fitzpatrick will be on this list, but he's currently still an unrestricted free agent, and he's not a member of the Packers as of right now. Other current Packers to win national titles in college includes Josh Jacobs and Xavier McKinney. They both won one in Alabama. Michigan grad and new offensive lineman Carson Barnhart, and former South Dakota State Jackrabbit and standout tight end Tucker Kraft. Even though I don't believe Tucker Kraft actually played in that national championship because I believe he was injured.
Wait. No Buckeyes? None?
No, there's no Ohio State Buckeyes on the Packers.
Just checking.
I double check. Don't trust me. I check, Gil.
I believe you did.
I was banging the table for Emeka Ibuka last year if he would have fallen to Green Bay, man. I want Buckeyes on the Packers. I want Jack Sawyer to be a Packer last year, but he got picked one before Barron Sorrell. Hopefully Barron Sorrell ends up being a better choice where it's like, hey, it's like if I'm rooting for the success of the Packers more so than the former Buckeyes, even though the love is very, very close, Gil.
All right. I'll let you go this time.
Appreciate it. Yeah. So Christian Watson, there you go, folks. Remember that. Christian Watson, 3 national titles in college, in case it ever comes up in a trivia night at your local establishment.
There you go. All right. Well, that is going to do it for us today. We'll be right back here next week. Follow us on Twitter at Gil Packers and at GB Packers Sean. Stay up to date on all things Packers or to ask us questions. Or you can email us at gbpackersean@gmail.com. Make sure you're subscribed to Packers Talk on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Big thanks to PackersTalk.com for powering our show, and thank you for listening. Until next time, go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go.